Hi, welcome to Chad Silversmithing. First, thanks for visiting my channel. I really appreciate that. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button before you leave, that helps out a great deal. Today, I haven't really done anything with leaves, which are a popular theme amongst silversmiths. So today I'm going to do three different pieces that involve making some leaves as part of the design. So I'm going to do a pair of earrings that are sort of stylized. I'm going to do a necklace with kind of a pass-through leaf. The chains aren't actually connected, but one of them goes through part of the design and hangs down below it. And then finally, I'm going to do a bracelet with a leaf incorporated into the design. And for the earrings, I'm going to put some oval cabochon emeralds that have a really bright color to them. Since leaves are a lot of times green, green's a good stone for that, I suppose. The bracelet is the other one that's going to have a stone, and I'm going to use a piece of Jadeite from Russia that has kind of an interesting mottled green color, opposite of a leaf design on either end of it's kind of an open bangle. So before we get started though, I wanted to thank my YouTube subscribers. We passed 5,500. That's amazing and wonderful. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your support. I'd also like to thank my patrons, and I have two new ones. I have Brigitte K. and Kathy M. I really appreciate you signing up. I look forward to getting to know you over on Patreon. Thanks for signing up. That's great. So let's get started on these projects. This is my design book, which can be found on the merch store if you're interested. I find them particularly useful anymore for sketching up my designs. And these are, to be honest, these are all kind of variations of things that I've seen online. I was going to try and attempt some of them, and I think probably start with the bracelet here, and then maybe move on to the necklace where we have some kind of open wire work leaves, and then this is kind of a stylized leaf, I think, with little emeralds on the part that's going to have a post on the back, put together with a jump ring. For this one, though, we're going to start with I pre-made some of this stuff just because we're doing three projects. So this is going to be right here, and we'll solder it onto a base that's thick, like 18 gauge probably, and then we'll attach a piece of 10 gauge round wire to be our stem or part of our bracelet that goes around the wrist. And I'm going to taper one end of this, and I pre-textured a piece of 18 gauge sheet with just kind of an organic-y looking pattern. And I'm going to, after I taper the end of this, we'll be soldering it down to the center of this, and we'll cut a leaf shape out of it. And then we'll add some little veins out of probably 20 gauge wire, I think, 20 gauge round, and we'll just solder those down. And then we'll solder it all together. So I think we'll start with that. I need to cut myself a piece of 18 gauge big enough for the base of this one. So we'll do that first and solder this down. I want to leave some I'm going to leave just a little bit of a lip all the way around, not too much, but maybe a little bit bigger down here so that I have a little bit of room to attach this wire securely on there. So that'll be where we start, I think. If you've never seen my videos before, I do primarily hard silver sheet solder and a spray-on flux called My-T-Flux. I occasionally use easy solder for a hinge pin or something like that, but primarily hard solder. Normally I would also use much thinner sheet for the back of a bezel, but for this one I want it to be pretty heavy duty. Just go straight up there and cut it off there. That should leave me enough to do that, and then I can kind of just shape it. So I'm going to make sure I leave maybe an 1/8 of an inch on each side and a little bit extra on this end, and I'll kind of shape it that way so that I can attach it to that piece of wire. When you're soldering a thick piece of sheet to a little thin bezel like this, there's a big disparity in the mass in it, and so people have a tendency to melt their bezels because oops, let's cut some solder first. Because they don't get the sheet hot enough, but the bezels already reach temperature. So the trick is to get that big, thick piece of sheet hot at about the same time but the bezel reaches temperature, and that's where the trick is. Again, like I said, the sheet is going to be harder to get up to temperature than the bezel. If you want to, sometimes you can tip it up. Like that, and heat from underneath. That way the bezel itself isn't exposed to direct flame. And you can watch the solder will start to flow. And then you can just go ahead and finish it up on top like that. A lot of people use a little platform with a screen, and you can do the same thing to get to the underside of things that way. Cool him off and trim him up a little bit. I'm trying to leave, a big chunk there. Then I'm kind of try and get it to be sort of follow the outline of the bezel itself relatively closely. Sorry about the dirty band-aid. The ends of my fingers tend to get trashed when I'm doing this, as much as I've been doing it lately. I could use a good mani-pedi. Alright, let's kind of shape that into a nice shape. Take a little bit more off, I think, probably. That looks pretty good. Okay. One thing I'm going to do, I want this to kind of, the stem to kind of taper down into the base there, so I think I'm going to file like a straight flat place on it first, about not that far. So what I want to do is actually file a flat spot just a little ways through the wire. I'm doing this elevated, but I'll probably go do the rest while I'm pushing it into my bench pin to get a nicer flat space there. But I want it cut in enough to where it'll sit on there nicely, and then I'll probably taper the other side down like that. So, be right back. Did one thing mostly. If you can see that or not, but I filed it so it's got a flat space going in there, so that'll sit just kind of down right on there. Now I need to kind of taper this down, just opposite it. So, but before we do that, I think I want to, I need to have this right about from here to here, thickest here, and then taper down to almost a point there. And so it can be the stem on the leaf here. And so I'm going to start filing that. That's going to take a while, so I'm going to do a lot of it off camera. But you could probably use, if you had the right wheels to roll out wire on your rolling mill, you could do that to part of it. It takes too long to change my wheels on mine, so I'm just going to file it. Alright, I'll be back when I'm done. So, things I've done, I filed, I think I already showed you this, but I finished that off. Tapered this down. And then the other thing that I did was I clamped it down so I could keep it in one position. And I filed this so it's a little bit thinner over here, because I want to solder this down to this and then cut out a leaf shape. But before I do that, in order to not get a lot of sloppy solder mess by leaning pieces against there or something, I'm going to pre-melt some solder on the back of this so it's already in place, and then I'll probably use a pair of tweezers just to hold them together while I heat it until it flows, and then we'll just cut it to the shape we want it to be, and then we'll start adding little veins, I think. You'll notice in my videos that I do a lot of pick soldering. Pick soldering is a skill that ramped up my abilities to do things incredibly. So if you're interested, put a link right up there to my pick soldering video, and you can check it out. Some solder left here from before. I'm going to go ahead and put some on here because I'm going to need to eventually anyway. I'll go to attach the other side. think this has to be perfectly symmetrical because I'm trying to do something that's sort of natural shape, and those don't always have perfect dimensions. So let me find some 20 gauge round wire. Where did you go? I think I'm just going to cut a bunch of little pieces of this, and then I'm going to sweat some solder onto these. Alright, I think I may want to let these cool off so I can curve them a little bit if I want to. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the other half off camera to save time, so I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I went ahead and finished those up and cleaned up the edges a little bit, and now I'm going to solder this one on, and then we'll pickle this and we'll move on to the next piece. Looks to me like we have a good solid seam there. It's not perfectly lined up with this, but the good thing is, with round wire you can just bend it. Or just twist it, I should say. Okay, so my pickle jar is an actual pickle jar, so I'm going to bend it so it'll fit in there. Pick it up and let it pickle for a little bit. Okay, what are we going to do next here? Let's see. I think let's do the earrings next. So I already have the bezels for these little guys. I need to cut some pieces of 18 gauge that are that size. I haven't done that yet. So So I did several things off camera. I finished shaping those, and so I'm going to solder those together. I also cut out the football shapes out of some 18 gauge silver sheet, taped them together, and I drew out my design. So I'll need to drill some holes to start my saw through those and then cut out those little shapes. And it's easier to do it through both of them, so you get them relatively symmetrical. Now I'm not terribly good at sawing, so I'm going to try and keep it as neat as possible. So we'll see how I can do it. Well, I'm better at filing than I am at sawing, so I may have to do the file to clean them up a little bit. But then we'll drill a hole here and here, and there's going to be a hole in the top of each of these, and we'll hook them with jump rings, add a post onto the back of these, and then we'll be done with these. And let's go saw the little pattern out of here, and then we'll come back. Okay, I apologize for my messy sawing area here. I also apologize for my lack of sawing skills. I'm actually starting to like sawing a little bit. I didn't used to at all, but it's growing on me. Probably because I'm getting a little bit better. I should probably go ahead and drill a hole through these while I'm here. Okay, we'll go untape that one and see how it looks. Okay, basically two things left to do on this. I have to solder some posts on the back of these things. I've cut holes in them and everything. I cleaned up these things. They're not perfect, but they're better than they were. And so we'll hang those from each of the earrings. But let's solder these posts on first. Alright. It's pretty easy to solder posts on. Where did the other one go? There's already some solder on the pad there. Set it on some solder here. Ball it up on the way. Should be able to just Okay, so there and there is where we got to solder, and then we can let these go for a while. I'm going to take a little break and have a snack. We'll come back and do that last piece. Alright, so those are done. I'm going to pickle them. Take a break. Okay, so for our third project, we're going to be doing the 2 leaves here made with some skinny square wire. I had some 14 and I pulled it through my draw plate a few times to make it a little bit smaller. I didn't measure, but it's about 16 gauge. So we'll be making some leaves out of that. And then my wife sacrificed one of her old little link chains. I don't keep these on hand most of the time. They just get tangled too easy. But for this one, it seemed appropriate to hook it like this. So we'll cut it. I'll make this side a little bit shorter and this side a little bit longer since it's going to go through the leaf itself. And we'll try to make a good pathway for it to go. So I'll set that to the side for the moment. And I cut some of this wire. I cut one for the center, a little bit longer than I need. I cut some little side ones, which we'll solder onto that center point. And then I got two outside pieces that'll curve around and do that. So to start with, I think for these ones, I'm going to file them all at a slight angle. I just want it to have a slight curve, like that. And so these guys are going to attach down here to be the outside part of the thing. So we're going to move inwards just a little bit. That looks pretty good. I'll cut myself some more solder. Sometimes these 3 project videos keep me up past my bedtime. Everything's on there pretty good. Cool that off. So I think I made it a little bigger scale, and that's okay. But I do need to attach these 2 right here next, I think, and then we'll bend them to get them shaped, then we'll decide where to cut those off. That looks pretty good to me. That's pretty nice. I like that. Let's T-pin around here somewhere. I normally use my pick for this, but I was just using my pick, so it's a little warm. There it is. Okay, so I can just make a scratch. Right on the inside edge of this bend that I have here. And I should be able to just cut those off about right there. Cutting them off a little long so I can file them down. Probably should have used the marker thing to make this easier to see. Oops. Probably get rid of some of this now because it's kind of getting in the way. Alright, I got that pretty close there, I think. So, now let's figure out the other one. Okay, let's give that a go. I accidentally got a little piece of silver stuck in there, so it must have been on the pad. Decent solder joints and everything, so I'm going to cut the stem down just a tiny bit, file it flat. Earlier I made a little jump ring, if I can find it, and I made it out of 20 gauge because I want these to be pretty small. The chain I'm soldering this to is very fine, so I need something pretty small to fit through the chain. So let me just make sure this is nice, and I don't think I'm even going to solder these closed because the chain that I'm going to use is so delicate that if I try and polish these while it's on the chain, I'm bound to destroy it. So I think I'll polish these separate and then I'll add them onto the chain, and that means I can't solder them closed after I've already polished them because I'll get them dirty again. So I'm going to solder it on so the opening on the ring is to the side. Okay, so I'm going to make a second one pretty much just like that, and then I will polish those up, and then I will hook them together at the end. So, I will cut this chain at a spot that seems appropriate once I have those all cleaned up. So, I'll be back. Okay, you can see my 3 different leaf things. These ones are very stylized. This one's kind of a traditional looking leaf. I think that looks nice with that stone. And then of course this is the one. I'm not sure if I got the length right as far as the chain cut, but I may have to fix that, I don't know. So, way like that, I think. So, alright, I'll take better pictures and put them at the end. I hope you enjoyed the leaf design pieces. I know that I had fun making them, and if you did enjoy them, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. That really helps out a lot. And check out some other videos. I have tons of videos up here now. I got 210 plus now. So whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced level, there's probably something here that you might be able to find useful. So check it out and subscribe to my channel. If you want to look into further things, check the video description down below. There's some relevant links to my channel. So thank you. Take care. Happy silversmithing.